In the last 18 months, I have written 500,000 words of fiction. Over 80,000 words of that was the first draft of the current book I am writing, which I am now on draft 3. That first draft I filmed across 65 videos and posted to this channel. I have also posted 25 stories to this channel in that time period in video format. Here are 8 tiny habits that had a massive impact on helping me to write that much. The first habit is that I write when I am at my most fresh. I structure my day so that I do the most important thing first. For me, writing is the most important task of the day. Writing is what I have committed my life to. This is what makes me happy. This is what everything I do is based around. So I wake up pretty early in the morning. I wake up at 5 a.m. I grab some tea and then I sit down to write. The reason I do it like this is when you first wake up, you haven't had to make any decisions. You haven't had to do any work. You haven't expended any mental energy. I want to take my brain when it's the most fresh, when I haven't done anything. I've literally just woken up from sleep and direct it right at writing, right at writing. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not about when you feel the best or when you think you have your best ideas. Naturally, I'm a night person. I love the night, but it doesn't matter because I have realized that if I wait until nighttime to do my writing, I am not as focused. My brain is more tired after all the other things I have to do during the day and the decision fatigue I have. I don't get as much done. This has nothing to do with ideas, which funnily enough, I have a habit that is connected to ideas later in the video. But if you're thinking, oh, but I have my best ideas at different times, that's not what this is about. For me, this is all about taking the most brain power I have and putting it all into my writing first thing in the morning before anyone else is awake, before I have any other responsibilities. Habit number 2 is I write at the same time every day. This is really important because this is connected to how habits are formed. As you can probably imagine, me being able to write 500,000 words in 18 months has a lot to do with me being consistent. How do you develop consistency? Well, the best way to develop consistency is to develop a habit. Well, how do you develop a habit? At its base level, a habit is formed because there is some kind of cue and some kind of response. Different experts have slightly different ways of saying it. For example, James Clear in his Atomic Habits says there's a cue, a craving, a response, and a reward. But at its base level, it's just cue and response. Imagine you have the habit of checking your phone when you change rooms in your house. How does it work? Well, you need to change rooms. That is the cue. You get your phone and check it. That is the response. Very simple. Something triggers you wanting to do the thing, and then you do the thing. Here's where it gets interesting. Anything can be a cue. In fact, if you read Atomic Habits or other books, or you read the research done on habits, you'll see that a lot of it is focused on the environment and making it be a cue for you. If you want to develop a habit, you develop something that cues your brain to want to respond in that certain way. Here's where it gets really interesting. Time of day can be a cue. If you do a thing at the same time every day, eventually when you repeat it enough times, your whole mind and body will prepare for the thing at that time of day, which means you don't even need willpower to do it. You'll just go and do it automatically, and that's how it is now. I don't really think about writing. I wake up at the same time each morning, which is the cue for me getting my tea, which is the cue for me sitting down to write. Now, obviously at the beginning, you will have to consciously think about it for a good while, but eventually you will get to the point where you just go for it and it happens. Habit 3 is that I protect my writing time fiercely. Now you'll notice there's a bit of a pattern here where everything is connected to the writing time. First of all, you need time to write if you want to write a lot. Doing it at the same time every day makes it a habit, but then you have to be completely selfish and protect it like your life depends on it, because your writing life does depend on it. Everyone in my life knows my writing time. They know that if they need me for anything, they can wait, or if they're sending a message, don't expect a response immediately. It does help that I write early in the morning before most people are awake, or usually most people, if they're awake at 5 a.m, it's because they're doing something similar, or they have to go to work, or they're doing something. A lot of people aren't awake that early, so that helps. Keep in mind here, I'm talking about the morning a lot. You don't have to write early morning if you don't want to. That is what works for me. Really early morning or really late at night does work, just because there are less people around, less things happening, less responsibilities, therefore less distractions. But it can be any time you fit it in. Protect that time. Tell people, explain to them the situation. It's just a conversation. I'll tell you why this is so important. If you're just casual about it, life will just eat away at your writing time. I've had this happen to me in the past. It's just the way life works, is it starts to eat into things. You have to set that fence around your writing time and be like, no. And you have to constantly just be vigilant and say, no, this is not happening. Otherwise, it'll just be like, oh, just this time, let me do this. Oh, let me just do this. And then eventually you haven't written in 3 months and you're like, what happened? Protect that time. Habit 4, I capture all my ideas all of the time. My ability to come up with new ideas does not always perfectly coincide with my writing time early in the morning. I wish it did, but it doesn't. Now, if I'm in the session and I don't have an idea and I'm trying to figure things out, we'll talk about that later. But one way I limit the amount of times that scenario happens is that it doesn't matter what I'm doing or where I am, I capture my ideas. I have my phone on me pretty much all the time. I have a document on my phone which I just capture ideas in. That is it. If I'm talking to someone, I will mention it just out of politeness. Sorry, I just have to do this thing. It'll be 3 seconds, and I do it, and then whatever. But don't get yourself in trouble. If you're in a meeting, for example, and you know, being on your phone would get you fired, obviously don't do that. Although if you, I don't know, if you have a notebook in the meeting, maybe just write a little thing. No one will know what you're writing. But to the best of your ability, just capture every idea you have. And a lot of them will be useless, but some of them will be great. And that has really helped me just keep the flow going in my writing sessions. Habit number 5, I walk to develop ideas in my head. Let me know if you've ever had this situation. You're sitting down to write and you have an idea in your mind, but it's forming and it's just not quite developed enough for you to get it down on paper. It's not writer's block. You know where you're going. You're just sorting through it in your mind. I think of it like this. My mind is doing a lot of divergent thinking. It's connecting dots, thinking outside the box to develop this idea in my mind, but I'm just sitting in one place locked in a box and I'm not doing anything to help it along. It's different to when you're writing. When you're thinking of ideas, but you're writing at the same time, the writing is helping the ideas along. When you're at that point where it's not quite developed enough to get it on page, I don't like to just sit there. So what I do is I walk. The science behind it, maybe it's change of environment helps divergent thinking, maybe it's the change of scenery helps with creativity, maybe it's the bilateral movement that's good for the brain. I don't know. All I know is that it works for me. I used to actually just go outside, leave the building and walk and think, and that actually does wonders, but the issue with that is it takes too much time now. I tend to just walk around the room. Sometimes I walk around my house. I'll just pop into the kitchen, then go into my bedroom for no reason at all, go into the sitting room, just look around. This is what works for me. Habit number 6 is using my book development framework. So over the years, I've developed a framework essentially that I follow to take any book from idea to finished draft. Maybe I'll do another video deeper on it or each element, I'm not sure. In a nutshell, I start with the idea that I turn into a 1-sentence explanation, which follows the CGRO framework, which is character, goal, reason, obstacle. So character has goal because of reason, but this obstacle is getting in their way. Step 2 is I map that to the 3-act plot structure. 1 sentence at each plot beat to make sure that the story works as a whole. Then I take that and I expand it in a plot treatment, which is essentially I write it out in detail, step by step what happens, but as if I was telling it as a story to a friend. This character went this and then he said this, da 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 da. It's not prose. That's where I develop the story in more detail. And then the job of the first draft is just to turn the plot treatment into prose. However, I allow myself some flexibility to follow the characters and let myself be creative. And if I do something in the draft that takes me off somewhere completely different, I always have the plot treatment to fall back to if I need. That has truly helped me just be so productive, honestly. I'm never questioning, oh, what do I do next? What do I do next? I always have this to follow. Habit 7 is specifically about the first first draft, just focus on the next word. I think of the plot treatment and all the work I do before starting the first draft as a map. It's directions. I know where I'm going. But on the first draft, I'm not thinking about the end or about the future. I'm just thinking about word by word. I'll explain why. Think of it like a marathon. Writing a book is a marathon. Now, before you start the marathon, you know where the finish line is. You know that you're getting to the finish line. You know which directions you need to go along the way because it's marked out by signs. But as you're running, you still have to take it step by step. And that's how I treat the first draft. I know where I'm going because of the plot treatment and the work I've done before. I don't want to be thinking there because all it does is it makes me overthink. I am the type of person who will plan 30 years in the future. I'm not even joking. I will think, okay, so how does this word here affect this scene? That affects the ending of this book, but how does that affect the sequel? What about book 10? That's what will happen. I remove all of that I make the plot treatment, I know where I'm going for this book, and then I just focus on the next word. That is it. For habit 8, I'm gonna cheat a little bit, but in a good way because I'm giving you 2 in 1. The 8th habit, but you can say the 8th and 9th habit, are copy work and reading. Copy work is the act of taking text and copying it by hand, word for word. As you do this, you study it in depth. I do 1 page of copy work 6 times a week. Just 1 page. I pick books from authors that I love. I analyze the techniques they use, how things fit together. I've done this for hundreds of days at this point. I have seen a marked improvement in the quality of my work since I did this, but let me go deeper. There are 2 specific ways this has helped me. One is the technical aspects. I'll tell you how I started this. It got to a point in my writing journey a couple years ago where I thought I was pretty good, but I wanted to get better. I was doing research, trying to find ways to get better, but everything I was finding was just basic, was too beginner level. It wasn't teaching me advanced things. But how do I actually get information from true masters of the craft and absorb it into me? And I thought, wait a second, let me analyze the actual greats so deeply that I can understand it at a granular level. And that's what I've done. And it's fantastic. The second way it's helped me a lot is that when I am doing copy work, ideas on how to do things or how to solve problems in my writing flood my mind like crazy. So normally after I finish my copy work, I then go back to my ideas document, type in like crazy, this. It's absolutely wonderful, and it's actually one of the things I enjoy most. The second part of this is reading. I don't read that much. I read 15 minutes a day, at least. If I have time and I want to, I will read more, but it's just 15 minutes a day. A few years ago, I realized that I had stopped reading. When I was younger, I was reading all the time, one of my favorite things to do. Then I stopped and I fell out of reading, and it was weird because I was still writing, but I had stopped reading, and I thought, this is not on. How am I going to keep expanding the overall knowledge and experience I can get from other people beyond my own life if I stop reading? I believe that if you want to be a master at something, which I do want to be a master at writing, you have to become obsessed with it. You have to surround yourself with the craft. I used to be a tennis player. I grew up as a tennis player. I was going professional. I moved countries, traveled around to play tournaments. And something my dad used to tell me is he used to say, Andrew, you have to eat, breathe, sleep tennis. And I've taken that lesson throughout my life. If you truly want to become a master of something, you have to eat, breathe, and sleep it. How can I say I want to be a great writer if I'm not reading great writing? So now, even though I don't have tons of time, I make sure that at least 15 minutes every day I read. And there you have it. Those are 8, well, kind of 9, 8 and a bonus, whatever you want to call it. Those are the 8 habits I use to help me write 500,000 words in 18 months. Thank you for watching. AAWatson out.